15 rejections, 15 times being told no. That's enough to make most people give up, question themselves, maybe even walk away from their dreams altogether. But not for this guy. Each rejection didn't break him, it built him. In fact, it pushed him to do something no one saw coming. He started a company from scratch and turned it into a $200 million success story. This is the true story of a young man who, fresh out of college, sent out job application after job application, hoping for just one shot. Big tech firms, startups, even small companies, all turned him down. Some never responded. Others said he wasn't a good fit. He started to wonder if maybe he just didn't have what it takes. But deep down, he had one thing none of those rejection emails could measure: belief in himself. With no job offers and barely enough money to pay rent, he decided to take a risk. Instead of waiting for someone to give him an opportunity, he created his own. What started as a simple idea, something he scribbled down in a notebook late one night, slowly turned into a business. But this wasn't some overnight success. There were moments he almost quit, times when everything nearly fell apart. So what was the turning point? What idea did he bet everything on? And how did it grow into a company now worth over $200 million? Stick around, the story's just getting started. It all started in a tiny apartment with nothing but a laptop, a shaky Wi-Fi connection, and a whole lot of frustration. He didn't have investors. He didn't have a team. What he did have was a problem he noticed that no one was solving. Something people dealt with every day, but didn't even realize could be done better. He kept thinking, if no one's hiring me, maybe I can hire myself. That one thought became his fuel. He began working day and night, teaching himself everything from coding to marketing. He watched endless tutorials, read forums, made mistakes, a lot of them. But every failure gave him one more clue about what might actually work. Friends thought he was wasting his time. His parents were worried. He was running out of money, surviving off instant noodles, and skipping nights out to save cash. But something inside him just wouldn't let go of the idea. His company, if you could even call it that back then, was just a rough version of a product. No flashy logo, no PR buzz, just something he believed could make people's lives a little easier. He launched a basic version, almost embarrassed to show anyone. For weeks, nothing happened. 0 users, no clicks, not even a spam email. But then, one person signed up. Then another, and another. Something was shifting. Still, success was far from guaranteed. What he didn't know then was that the biggest challenge was still ahead, and it could either break everything or change his life forever. At first, it looked like things were finally turning around. A few users turned into a few hundred. He was answering customer emails himself, fixing bugs at 3 a.m., doing everything he could to keep the product alive. But growth came with pressure. The servers started crashing. The website couldn't handle the traffic. Worse, he had no money to upgrade anything. Every time it seemed like he was getting ahead, something went wrong. Refund requests, angry users, a bug that wiped out user data. It felt like the whole thing could collapse at any moment. Then came the copycats. Larger companies noticed what he was building. They had more resources, more people, and they moved fast. One of them launched a similar tool, but with better design and aggressive pricing. He couldn't compete on money, so he tried to compete on purpose, staying focused on the core problem he was trying to solve. But still, doubts crept in. Was this the moment he'd get pushed out of his own idea? At the same time, investors started reaching out, emails with offers to help scale his business. On the surface, it sounded like a dream: funding, mentorship, connections. But some deals came with strings attached: controlling stakes, pressure to pivot, or abandon the product vision altogether. Saying yes might mean losing control. Saying no might mean running out of money. He was stuck between two impossible choices, and somewhere in the middle of all this chaos came a decision that would change everything. He spent nights pacing the floor, rereading the investment offers, trying to decide whether to risk everything he'd built or let it slowly burn out. The stress was getting to him. He hadn't slept properly in weeks. He barely ate. Every hour felt like a countdown. Money was running out, competitors were gaining ground, and users were starting to notice the cracks. Negative reviews started popping up. Some early supporters were leaving. The pressure was unreal. Then came the biggest blow. His payment processor froze his account over a technical issue, holding thousands of dollars in revenue. Just like that, he couldn't pay for servers, tools, or even rent. It was the lowest point. He sat alone, staring at his screen, wondering if this was the end. After all the rejection, all the work, all the late nights, was this how it would fall apart? In that moment, he had two choices: shut it down, return to the job market he once left behind, or take one final leap. A pivot no one saw coming. But this wouldn't just affect him anymore. By now he had a small team, people who quit their jobs to join him. They believed in the mission, they trusted him. And now he had to make a move that could either save them all or take everything down with him. The next decision wasn't just risky, it was make or break, and once he made it, there would be no turning back. Just when he thought he'd made peace with his decision, the pivot that could either rescue or ruin everything, something happened that flipped the whole situation on its head. A major tech blog published an article about his startup. It wasn't planned. Someone had stumbled across the product, used it, and decided to write a glowing review. Overnight, traffic exploded. Thousands of new users flooded the site. It should have been a breakthrough, but instead, it nearly broke everything. The system wasn't ready for that kind of attention. The site crashed within hours. New users couldn't sign up. Existing ones lost access. Social media lit up. Some people were excited, but others were angry and impatient. The buzz turned into backlash. All eyes were on him now, but not in the way he'd hoped. And just when he was scrambling to fix it, his lead developer, the only person who truly understood the back end, quit without warning. Burnout. He said he couldn't keep going. Suddenly, the thing he had poured his entire life into was hanging by a thread. Investors were calling again, this time with urgency. Some threatened to walk if he didn't accept their terms. And worse, one of the biggest competitors had just launched a full-scale ad campaign targeting his exact customer base. He was outnumbered, outfunded, and running on fumes. But deep down, something told him this moment, right here, was what would define him. Everything was about to come to a head. With everything falling apart, he locked himself in his apartment for 48 hours straight. No phone calls, no emails. Just him, the code, and a nearly empty fridge. He patched the servers, rebuilt parts of the backend, and brought on a couple of freelance developers with the last of his savings. It was all or nothing. The platform came back online just as the tech blog posted a follow-up, praising how fast the fixes were made. The momentum returned, but it was fragile. That's when he made the call no one expected. He turned down every investor. All of them. He'd rather grow slower than lose the company's vision. Instead, he reached out directly to his users. In a heartfelt email, he shared the full story: the rejections, the struggle, the burnout, the pressure. He offered lifetime memberships in exchange for small contributions to keep the platform going. Within 72 hours, the community responded with overwhelming support. Not just money, but messages, testimonials, even volunteers offering help. The company stabilized, and within a year, it wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Revenues climbed. The user base grew faster than ever. That $200 million valuation, it came after a major strategic partnership with a global tech firm that promised to protect the product's original mission. But here's a twist no one saw coming. He never hired back that developer who quit. Instead, that same developer launched a competing product, which would soon become his biggest challenge yet. A new rivalry had just begun. The rivalry that followed wasn't driven by hate. It was something deeper. Competition, pride, Two people who had once built side by side were now pushing each other from opposite sides of the industry. And oddly enough, it made both of them better. He stayed focused on what had always mattered, solving real problems and listening to his users. The pressure was still there, but it wasn't crushing anymore. He had a team he trusted, a loyal customer base, and the freedom to grow on his own terms. As his company reached that $200 million milestone, he took a rare moment to pause. Not to celebrate the number, but to look back. 15 job rejections, years of being underestimated, sleepless nights, broken code, lost friends, near bankruptcy. Every step of the journey had felt impossible until it wasn't. What kept him going wasn't luck or genius. It was the decision to keep showing up when everything screamed to walk away. In the end, it wasn't just about building a successful startup. It was about proving something to himself. That failure isn't final. That rejection doesn't define you. And that sometimes not getting what you want is the exact thing that leads you to what you're meant to build. So, the next time you hear no, remember this story. Because sometimes the best companies, the ones worth hundreds of millions, are born from the people no one believed in at the start.